although he's not being obedient at all right now.
Oh, so cute.
He's like, oh, and he needs, okay, go ahead. He's like, oh.
Oh, so cute.
He's like, Sydney needs love. And at some point, now that he's facing his
Buddy,
own...
I gotta film. Okay, I'll film over you. Okay.
Oh, Mama. Let me just show you what a bad service dog I am. Yes, I know. Jeff and I went to Salt Lake City for a doctor's appointment, and we had made the decision that it was time to have another dog in our family. We had always had 2 dogs, and it had been 3 years. And we went to the Humane Society, and he was available that day in Salt Lake City. And we just loved his sweet little face. And he was very sick. He was 25 pounds lighter than he is currently. He was clearly malnourished from his previous home, but he also lost weight while at the shelter because he got kennel cough. And we brought him home as a surprise for Sydney and Emily, our daughters, for Christmas. And so when they came home from school, he was sitting in our big window with a bow on him and waiting their arrival. And he had already met Abby Grace, our other dog, who's a chocolate lab, and they hit it off immediately, and he's been a wonderful addition to our family. And he whined all the way from Salt Lake City to Woodland Park, which is a 10-hour drive. He was really anxious, and he has anxiety as a real condition. So it makes him very attentive to what's going on with other people. So we first understood that Harley had an intuitive ability to pick up people's medical issues when my mother stayed with us for an extended period of time, and she had to be on oxygen at the altitude that we were at. She was also fighting some pretty difficult medical issues, and he was able to detect when her oxygen level was low. And we were like, wow, that's amazing. And he always would go to the sickest person in the house, whoever needed the most love and attention. He seemed to know who needed it. And then as we became more aware that he was picking up what was going on with my kidneys, and he picks up other things too, but he was able to correlate it with the testing, where my blood test would check what was happening with the electrolytes in my kidneys. And he's always right. And what's interesting is he knows which kidney is necrotic. He will lay on that side. He wants to be on that side of my body when it's happening. It's amazing. And as we've learned, especially with dogs, their scent glands allow them to pick up. It's why they can pick up seizures and diabetes, because they're all hormonally based changes in the body. And what happens in my kidneys has a hormonal connection. Wow. And we didn't really understand that completely, but we knew that he was catching it. So most states have laws that allow you to train your dog if you find out that they indeed are able to pick up whether you have diabetes or seizures, or in this case, kidneys, or if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, that type of thing. So we could have pursued having a service dog from puppyhood, but it's incredibly expensive. It costs $20,000 to $40,000 to have a dog trained. It's expensive to train a dog yourself. You can do it, in most states you can do it by working with an agency or working on meeting all the requirements yourself. A lot of people have done that. I had read articles about people, training their dogs, how they did that, whether, we would get support or help. And those were all resources that were available to us. We looked up this Colorado's state agencies regarding service dogs to find out who in the area that we lived in was available to help us. And there's requirements. There's both federal and state requirements that you have to follow. And we didn't know whether he would really be able to pass going through that process. We knew that he was a pretty obedient dog. So we didn't know for sure whether he would be able to do everything. And how we started the process is we, got him a training vest, and we did all of the requirements that were listed, and tested him to see whether he could do that. Because he was a fairly obedient dog, we knew that he most likely would pass the obedience part of it. And we needed to have medical backup that he was indeed picking up the medical issue. Now, there are people who will do this just so their dog can go with them. And that's all lovely, but why would you do that with a big, huge dog, So, and I think we were nervous when we went to Mayo Clinic because he had only, technically been certified for 6 months at the time. And I had no idea how he would handle such an intense and complex and complicated environment, long days. And it was unbelievable to watch him. He had to learn new things that he had not done before, I'm not normally in a wheelchair, but at Mayo Clinic, I could not walk the distance. And so he had to learn how to manage a wheelchair. And I think that was like the real test of, because it was 7 weeks of travel and time and long days that would start at 7 o'clock in the morning. And, we wouldn't often leave until 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And he couldn't be with me all the time, and that was hard for him. There were tests that were not safe for him to be a part of, exposure to radiation, although when I had to go to the emergency room and be there for 9 hours, they offered to let him go back for the procedure that they were doing, and they were, very understanding. Even though I was in a safe environment, he still has this innate need to be with me all the time. Now that he's gone through that training, it's even more magnified than it was. If he hadn't have passed all the requirements, we wouldn't have certified him, because that wouldn't be fair to him or to other people. Now that he's facing his own illness, we've had the conversation with the veterinarian about, at what point does he not become my service dog? And we had already knew that he would probably need to retire by the time he was 10 or 11, because you can't expect a dog to be able to do it forever. But now, the vet says he needs to be, doing what he normally does, because he doesn't understand. If I just said, okay, he can't, and he doesn't like it, like after he has chemotherapy and he can't go with me for a couple days, he does not understand that at all, and because you can't tell them. So we cannot tell you why. And so we honestly don't know if there's another dog out there who will be as smart as he is. I mean, it's an unusual ability. It's easier to pick up diabetes and seizures, and probably maybe there are more dogs who can do this. We just don't know. And but I'm also in a place where he's helped get me stronger, and my electrolytes are in better control. So I'm not having issues where I, will collapse because something has gone completely whacked out. And he picks up things a lot faster than I do. He'll know before I do, but I still know when it is going to happen. So, but it allows me to get tested and make adjustments in medication if he can pick it